They don't take your phone. They don't lock your door. In fact, you're free to do whatever you want, and that's exactly what makes it so hard to explain to anyone else. Because emotional control doesn't look like control at all. It looks like love. It looks like concern. It looks like someone who just cares about you more than anyone else ever has, and the scariest part? You don't realize the cage is closed until you try to open it. And realize you no longer remember the latch. This isn't about what they do to you. It's about what you slowly stopped doing for yourself. Here are the 7 quiet signs that you handed them the remote to your moods, and forgot you ever had it. Sign 1. You check the weather before you text them. Start with the smallest one, because it's the most revealing. Before you send that text, the harmless one, the funny one, the just thinking of you one, do you stop and calculate? You read it back. You rephrase it. You change the emoji. You wait 15 minutes so you don't look too eager. You send it, then immediately feel your stomach drop and start watching for the 3 dots. That's not texting. That's weather forecasting. You're not having a conversation, you're reading their mood and adjusting yourself to match it. Somewhere along the way, you stopped asking, "What do I want to say?" and started asking, "What will make them respond the way I need them to?" That's not communication. That's a job interview that never ends. Sign 2. Your apologies outnumber your mistakes. Here's a strange math problem. Count the number of times you've said "I'm sorry" in the last week. Now count the number of things you actually did wrong. They don't match. Not even close. You've apologized for being too sensitive, for bringing something up at a bad time, for having feelings they found inconvenient. You've said sorry for things that weren't your fault so many times that sorry stopped meaning "I made a mistake" and started meaning "I'm scared of your reaction." You've become fluent in a language of constant self-blame. And the person on the other end never once told you to stop. Sign 3. You've forgotten what you like. Here's a test you can run right now, silently. When was the last time you did something, a small thing, a hobby, a show, a meal, just because you liked it? Not because it made them happy. Not because it avoided a conflict. Not because it impressed them. Think about your playlist. Your weekend plans. The opinions you used to have. When did you last have a real opinion about anything without first checking how they'd feel about it? Emotional control doesn't steal your hobbies. It makes them feel pointless. It quietly teaches you that your own preferences are a problem, that the safest version of you is a version with no sharp edges. And one day you look up and realize you've been editing yourself so long, there's barely anything left to edit. Sign 4. You walk on eggshells that don't exist. Here's the cruel trick of it. You've developed a whole system of rules to keep them calm. Don't bring up that topic. Don't ask about that person. Don't be too happy around them. Don't be too sad. Don't be too anything. But here's what you haven't noticed. The eggshells aren't real. You built the floor yourself. You invented the rules because you were afraid, and then you spent years following rules you made up. Well, they never had to say a single word. They never had to threaten you. You did the work for them. You became their own enforcer, patrolling your own behavior, so they didn't have to. That's the genius of it. The controller doesn't need a whip. They just need you to believe the whip is there. Sign 5. You can't remember the last fight you won. Not one in the sense of beating them, one in the sense of having a disagreement, stating your side, and walking away feeling heard. Not punished. Not guilt. Not met with a silent treatment until you caved. Think hard. When was the last time your feelings won a single round? Emotional control runs on a simple rule. Your feelings are negotiable, theirs are not. Every conflict ends the same way. You either give in, apologize, or realize you've been too much again. You've stopped bringing up real issues entirely, because you already know the outcome. You've learned it's easier to swallow your feelings than to argue with someone who has already decided your feelings are wrong. Sign 6. You become a detective in your own relationship. You analyze everything. Their tone. Their timing. Their typing. You replay conversations and try to decode what they really meant. You watch their face when they think you're not looking. You keep a mental file of their moods so you can predict the bad ones before they arrive. This is what your mind has become, a surveillance system. You've stopped living in the relationship and started managing it. And here's the part that should stop you cold. The person who makes you feel like you need to study them like a threat is not your partner. They're your source of stress. And you've been treating your own anxiety as if it were a relationship skill. Sign 7. You're exhausted for no reason. And the last sign, the one underneath all the others. You're tired. Not the good tired. Not the tired after a long day. The tired that doesn't go away. The tired that follows you into bed and sits on your chest at 3 a.m. You think it's because you're busy. It's not. It's because you've been running a full-time job of emotional management, monitoring, forecasting, apologizing, editing, suppressing, and no one pays you for it. You're spending all your energy keeping the peace in a relationship where only one of you ever gets to be at peace. That exhaustion isn't weakness. It's your body telling you the truth your mind won't yet admit. So now you know the signs. But here's the deeper realization, the one this whole thing has been building toward. Look at all 7 again. Not one of them is about what they did. They're all about what you stopped doing for yourself. You stopped asking for what you want. You stopped trusting your own judgment. You stopped believing your feelings count. That's the brutal, freeing truth of emotional control. The control was never really theirs. It was yours, handed over, piece by piece, in the name of keeping the peace. And if you handed it over, you can take it back. You don't need their permission to want things. You don't need their approval to have feelings. You don't need to apologize for existing. The cage was never locked. You just convinced yourself you needed a key. Here's what I want you to remember. The next time you're lying awake editing yourself, afraid of what tomorrow's mood might bring, you were never the problem. You were the one holding the whole thing together. You were the one doing all the emotional work, alone, in the dark, for someone who never noticed how much it cost you. Stop managing them. Start choosing yourself. You've spent so long learning their weather patterns. Now learn your own. And if this video felt like someone finally handed you the words you couldn't find, subscribe. Because on this channel, we don't teach you how to survive someone else's moods. We teach you how to take your own back. That's a fresh angle. Instead of here's what the controller does, it's here's the cost you've been paying, framed as a slow transfer of custody over your own moods. 7 distinct signs, each with its own sharp example, and a payoff that flips the power back to the viewer.